It's provided me with the most satisfying career I can imagine. If you want to do this work, you want to do it in collaboration with the people who are the most exciting and satisfying people to work with. And I've had that experience. And it's been terrific. Anyway, moving on. A couple of years ago, Madeline Myer was interviewed by Broadway Mania while she was in rehearsal with her new musical, Double Helix, at the Bay Street Theater. In discussing the show, Ms. Myer said, quote, "It is so much easier not to write a musical than it is to write a musical." According to the interviewer, she repeated this statement, almost like a mantra, several times during the course of the conversation. It is so much easier not to write a musical than it is to write a musical. Well, yes, for all kinds of reasons. And I'm sure every book writer and lyricist in this room has their own personal list, which they have shared repeatedly with their collaborators and their therapists. But one core obstacle which we all share is that writing a musical takes time. Time which is almost in every instance entirely uncompensated. Time which has to be allocated to doing something else which is compensated, which in turn reduces the time available to write the musical. Ed Kleban understood that. Hence, this award and this check, which I had hoped to have in my hand to turn over to Madeline. $100,000 to buy time for this year's recipient for Most Promising Librettist, Madeline Myer. Well, don't leave it with the
I won't. I absolutely will not. That's not a thing I'm going to do. John, thank you. You were one of my favorite writers. Your work has meant so much to me, so thank you for this introduction, because your work has been so special and so meaningful to me. This is just overwhelming. I just feel verklempt and so lucky and so grateful to be in here. I first want to say how honored I am to be in Benjamin Velez's company and to get to share this thrilling moment with a writer I admire so much. Benjamin, I've admired your work from afar, and now I get to admire it from up close. It has been really wonderful emailing and texting and just generally convelling with you the past few weeks. I'm grateful to be a recipient of this award for so many reasons. I know there's not a writer among us who hasn't wanted to give up so many times. In my most despairing moments, I felt really low as I've watched my professional peers get commissions and productions, while I continue to have my trusty day job of teaching piano lessons. I've watched my friends buy homes and get promoted in their careers, have their first and second children. I've been told that my lyrics are too intellectual, that my music is too chromatic, that my ideas aren't commercial. This award feels like a much needed nod from the world, a deeply felt reminder not only to keep writing, but to keep writing the kind of work that feels the scariest to write. Work that is brave, work that is vulnerable, and most importantly, work that is true. It's not lost on me that this award is for the most promising librettist. It feels like Ed Kleban himself, a writer whose work has meant so much to me my whole life, is asking me to make the promise to myself to keep writing with courage, vulnerability, and honesty. And if Ed Kleban is indeed asking me to make that promise to myself with this award, I think the only appropriate answer comes in the form of his own lyrics. I can do that. I want to thank New Dramatists and the entire Kleban Foundation with a few specific mentions. To this year's judges, Raja Feather-Kelly, Clint Ramos, and Rachel Sussman, three titans of our industry whose work I deeply admire. There surely can be no greater prize than receiving this kind of acknowledgement from these three theater makers. To Connie Hall, for answering my many emails and questions, not just this year, but for the past million years that I've applied for this award. To Sarah Douglas, who was one of my very first advocates and champions when I was brand new to New York. To Juliana Russo, because having been a music assistant myself, I know that no one works harder than assistants. And to Richard Maltby and Maury Yeston, they say not to meet your heroes, but whoever said that clearly did not know Richard and Maury. Two of my personal musical theater heroes who have gone out of their way to encourage me, to believe in me, and to cheer me on every step of the way. Richard has been so generous to me with his time and his craft for so many years now. He told me that the most important currency a writer has is his or her, or their own voice. And I say that to myself every single day because of Richard. And Maury has been more than just a mentor to me. Over the years, he has become a true friend. Maury has never once failed to end any conversation we've ever had, whether that's been on the phone or over pancakes at Brooklyn Diner on 57th Street, always with the same two words: keep going. The Kleban Prize feels like the ultimate extension of Maury's faithful mantra, to keep going. As everyone in this room knows, it takes a village to make a musical, and I am profoundly grateful to the village that has brought my musical Double Helix to life and is ensuring that it continues on its journey. Eleni Giannoulis-Vermeer at Creative Partners Productions is a visionary producer with the kind of ambitions that Rosalind Franklin herself would appreciate. Eleni and her producing partner at Creative Partners Productions, Graham Berwind, have believed in Double Helix since day one. I'm so grateful to Eleni for her vision and her leadership in steering our team to a commercial production. I'm indebted to my artistic collaborators, director Scott Schwartz and music director Patrick Sulkin, who have poured countless hours and boundless energy into our show. And I say our show because it very much belongs to all of us. Patrick, Scott, and I have made it and built it together. There isn't a note, a word, a gesture, a movement, a moment that doesn't have Scott and Patrick's fingerprints all over it, and the show is infinitely better for it. Scott and Patrick are two of the most tremendous and rigorous artists working in their fields, and I am unbelievably grateful to be working with them. Best of all, working with Scott and Patrick is just a total blast. And as lucky as I am to get to call them my collaborators, I'm even luckier that I get to call them my friends. I'm enormously grateful to Chris Till, my agent, who has a roster full of clients who are way more exciting than I am, but he always makes me feel like the most important person in the room. I owe a world of gratitude to Stacy Mindich, who I admire not only as a producer, but also as a woman. Stacy always answers the phone when I'm having a meltdown, which unfortunately for her is not infrequent. She gives me tough love when I need to hear it, which unfortunately for me is also not infrequent. Stacy has been so generous to me with her time, her kindness, her wisdom, and above all, her friendship. All I've ever wanted to do pretty much my whole life is write musicals. My mom and my sister always made me feel that I could do just that. My mom and my sister are the center of my whole world, my two very best friends, and without a doubt, the loves of my life. I'm absolutely sure I wouldn't be writing musicals without their constant belief, support, and love. I owe my mom and my sister everything. And lastly, I want to thank my husband, Andrew Gotthelf. Andrew reads every first and second and third and fourth and fifth and last draft of everything I write, including this speech. He sacrifices so much to make sure that I get to pursue this dream of writing musicals. It's safe to say that the musical theater life chose Andrew, because even though he grew up playing sports and loving sports and not really knowing much musical theater prior to having met, he now is known to go down many obscure rabbit holes for cast albums, and he even knows theater before I know it. He saw every single performance of Double Helix at Bay Street except for 3 shows, and he gave me notes. Andrew, you are my everything. You are my whole heart. You are every note of music that I write, and I love you more than I could possibly say. Now I want to share 2 songs from Double Helix. Double Helix is a musical about the real-life race to secure the discovery of the structure of DNA and the scientist Rosalind Franklin. From the very first moment I read about her, I fell in love with Rosalind, a woman who was passionate and ambitious and unapologetically herself, a true force of character. And I felt a connection to her, like I really knew her. And not just because we were both women, or because we were both Jewish, or because we were both about the same age, but because, like Rosalind, I also knew what it felt like to want something so badly that you would give everything to it. Like Rosalind, I knew, to paraphrase my favorite Ed Kleban lyric, there wasn't anything I wouldn't do for love. For Rosalind Franklin, that meant her scientific work, and for me, that means writing musicals. The first song you'll hear is called Slow and Steady, sung by a character named Morris Wilkins. Before coming to King's College to work on the DNA problem in the early 1950s, Morris Wilkins worked on the atomic bomb during World War II as part of the Manhattan Project in Berkeley, California. After After the Manhattan Project, Morris is haunted by the guilt and the responsibility that he feels from his role in making the atomic bomb. Morris is convinced that this experience, rushing to scientific discovery without considering the consequences of his actions, is why he's estranged from his ex-wife and his young son. Following the Manhattan Project, Morris has promised himself to never again rush in a scientific race. In this song, Slow and Steady, Morris writes a letter to his 7-year-old son back in San Francisco. Please join me in welcoming to the stage my longtime friend and collaborator, Bobby Conti, to sing Slow and Steady from Double Helix.